Closing in on the end of the season in the Protyre Motorsport Ginetta GT Championship, we get ready for the third race of the weekend. Just 4 left before we finish the season. Obviously, last race we were looking at the championship effectively being crowned by Luke Reed. He finished second in that race. Would like to go one better in this one, but things tightening up in the GT5 side of things. Ella Lloyd having another average result, finishing a little further down the order, once again off the podium, losing out more points to what will be our pole sitter in the class for this race. Of course, it will be a bit of a tall order to get ahead of Luke Garlick. There will be plenty of racing left to go over the next 20 minutes as we prepare ourselves for the final race of the penultimate weekend. Ruben Haig starts again from pole position with Luke Reed alongside the pair of those two sharing the front row through the entirety of the weekend. Callum Davies picked up his 16th podium in the previous race. Will be starting alongside Conor Garlick on that second row of the grid. Colin White in 5th place with Bal Sidhu starting from 6th position. Then we get Sean Fleming and Gary Wager starting from 8th. One more row in the GT Pro category sees Leona Theobald and Carl Garnett, who's had a few problems this weekend as we get into the GT5 starters. Luke Garlick will start that one from pole position, 17th on the road with Sam Harvey alongside after a podium. Ella Lloyd will start from 3rd in the class with Pablo Jacquier in 4th in the class and 20th overall. Will Rochford was in contention for a victory, unfortunately got a penalty during the race. 21st he'll start with Paolo Santi and Karen Sekat. Sekat, of course, retiring from the race late on. Paolo Santi, also another one who had issues late on in the previous race. One of the big talking points over Brands Hatch has been all of the safety car interventions and the likes that have caused a fair few problems. We'll see if that is going to be the case here. We've had safety car interventions both in the Michelin Ginetta Junior Championship as well as the Ginetta GT Academy in the previous race, and of course in the Protyre Motorsport Ginetta GT Championship. Things are tight. I have mentioned before when it comes to the GT5 side of things, less so on the GT Pros. Luke Reed did enough in the previous race to really take it, to be perfectly honest. And we were saying before, we were looking at the GT5 Pro kind of category. Ella Lloyd, who we're looking at here, will start from 13th on the grid, 3rd in class. Losing out a few points to a main champion rival, will now only lead the championship by 24 points. Callum Davies, who we're on board with here, currently sits 2nd in the GT Pro Championship, but of course sits a fair few points clear of Colin White. Luke Reed, though, obviously starting on the front row of the grid, having amassed more than 150 points of lead. He's the one that's the most comfortable, really, over the running of this, because he's basically just got to come along and enjoy the race. Nothing too major. Just get some clean positions. I mean, really, again, championship's basically done. So just go out there and have some fun. Actually, let's go with that one. Well, I think we'll have plenty of that over the next 20 minutes. The GT5s then getting into their positions, obviously led by the pole man, Luke Garlick, who will pull into it. 2 wins this weekend from Luke Garlick, looking to make it 3 from 3 and take the clean sweep on what has been a toasty day in West Kingsdown. You've heard us mention that a lot, and the reason why I was going to bring it up this time is because actually it started to cool down a little bit. A bit of overcast coverage as we begin the 3rd and final race of the weekend, and we are underway with a race down towards the first corner. It will be a good translation from our pole sitter, Ruben Haig, who will hold on to the race lead. Also coming through has been Davies to take over 2nd position in that GT Pro category. As they head their way down the hill, there might be an instant fight back. We'll have to wait and see. A couple of squeezes, but unfortunately Reed has not been able to do anything, nor has Conor Garlick, who's also lost out of position on the race start. So White's made up a spot, gets up into 4th position through all of that in the GT Pros. We'll take a look at the GT5 as we ride on board with Ella Lloyd, who, if my eyes aren't deceiving me, looks to be up into 2nd position in category, of course directly behind Luke Garlick. She's had a couple of issues. She had a penalty in the first race of the weekend, and then an issue late on when she hit an advertising hoarding where she had to return to pit lane, got a safety car and was still able to kind of compete for the race. but she's had a bit of a difficult weekend here at Brands Hatch, and so hopefully we'll be able to challenge for the race victory and maybe push herself even closer to that GT5 championship before we get to Donington Park. It certainly cannot be decided in this race, but it will be close. Here she goes. She's looking down the inside. They come out of Hawthorns up towards Westfield Bend. She's committing straight down the inside. Brilliant move from Ella Lloyd. Committed. Might go a little bit deep here, and there might be a bit of the undercut from Luke Garlick. No, the 5 of those GT5s will remain very close indeed, and it really is a hustle between those top 2. A lot of curb there being used by the number 21 of Jackie. Just maybe causing a couple of problems to the underside of the car. A lot of sparks coming out from there as they're challenging higher up. This is a look then in, so Haig's actually dropped back, so I don't know what's happened here, but Haig has dropped back behind Davies, who I will remind you is yet to take a win in 2023. Might well be chalking that one up this weekend if he can hang on to that race lead. There must have been a mistake from Haig potentially going through Stirling's Bend. That might be where we've seen a few problems this weekend. And so unfortunately has dropped back to 2nd place. Took a win earlier on in the day. Obviously now has to deal with the pressures of the title holder in Luke Reed. There's a look down the inside from the number 63 Conor Garlick, trying to make a move on White, unable to do so. The 5 of these remain fairly close. Seadu's dropping off the rear end of that. Garnett's moved his way up into 7th place after starting from 10th. We'll take a look at what's happened on board with Davies. So you can see that it's exactly coming up towards Stirling where I thought there might have been an issue. Obviously cold tyres at this point, a bit of curb being used, a lot of oversteer. To be honest, good catch in these tricky conditions, but just losing the rear end. Anyway, back to live pictures. Davies is our leader. Haig has survived that significant moment and sits in 2nd position in this race. To wait and see if there is going to be that move. They come up and over the crest, and this is towards that point at Stirling's where he had an issue on the previous lap. I think Davies is just trying to drive within themselves at the moment and maybe looking for that victory. It's been elusive, has 16 podiums this season. Does Davies. Not one of them is a victory. This would be very important and kind of carrying that gusto into the final round of the season with 3 more races at Donington Park in the middle of October. So across the line they'll go, not separated by very much. We'll go through the order now. Davies, Haig, Reed rounding out the podium in the GT Pro category with White, Conor Garlick, Garnett and Seadu. Here comes the move for the race lead though. Straight down the inside, Haig's going to go. Ruben Haig's going for it, sent it in, and also joining into the mix with a bit of contact there was Luke Reed, muscling his way through. So Callum Davies is going to drop from the race lead to 3rd, instantly trying to fire one straight back down the inside at Graham Hill Bend. But no switching up there, and it's actually left Davies very, very vulnerable indeed to White, who's trying to send his way down the inside as they get into Surtees. So switching over in all of that, unfortunately for Davies, has gone from 1st to 4th in only a matter of corners. As I was talking about all of the victory stats and how much that would mean, now has to put in all of the work to come straight back through. The defensive lines they head up towards Hawthorns is being taken by White. Around the outside, Davies is going to try. It might go into a bit of an up and under to Westfield Bend. The answer to that question is no. They reach the highest point of the circuit before they begin the descent. Here they go through Westfield Bend, back up and over the climb. It's quite a lot of pressure on Davies' shoulders, especially when you've lost a few positions. To get that mentality back and try and refocus in the race can sometimes be very, very hard. Of course, Davies, plenty of experience now, giving it a good go to come straight back through. Not ideal on that occasion. And look at the top 2, how much they've cleared away instantly. The gap has gone out a whopping 1.5 seconds, basically, in an instant, in the blink of an eye over that battling. The up and under being worked there to perfection from Davies, and now is potentially going to drag Conor Garlick also through. As the 78 has the outside line, I think White might be losing out just a bit too much in all of this. And boom, straight then back up into 3rd position for Davies. Of course, White dropping back now to 5th, straight back down the inside, pouncing early to try and get through on the 63 of Conor Garlick. Not on this occasion, not on your life are you going to send one straight back down the inside at Druids. The thing is, when you're battling like this, when you're battling this hard, you actually end up losing so much time. And you can see that having just the 2 second gap now. It was 2.3 seconds across the line between Davies and Reed. That is a very impressive last lap from these two. Fastest first sector of the race has just been set by Luke Reed, trying to close down on Ruben Haig. The pair of these switch for race victories over the course of this weekend. So Ruben Haig had the previous one, Luke Reed had the opening one of the weekend, and coincidentally it was from when the others started from pole position. So Ruben Haig had the first pole position of the weekend, followed by a Luke Reed victory, and then Luke Reed had pole position, followed by a Ruben Haig victory. This time, of course, the pole position was in the hands of Ruben Haig. Does that mean that it'll be Luke Reed taking victory? I don't think it'll be that simple, as that was really down to how they were starting the race. We don't see too many battles between the pair of them this late into it. And so I'm sure we're in for a barnstorming finale to this race. This is a look back in the GT5 category, and you can see Ella Lloyd has actually got to the lead of that after starting from third position. She did cross the line in the first race of the weekend in first place, but had a 10-second time penalty for jumping the start, so dropped her back to fifth place. Now looking to actually round the weekend with a victory. She had plenty this season, has Ella Lloyd. I think it's 10 whopping wins this year, as here's the battle for third. Once again now Davies, then Conor Garlick, and then White. They're all very close. They're all separated by very, very little. And behind them, actually, Theobald has set the fastest middle sector of the race. So don't be too surprised if we see 6th and 7th in this. Garnett, who's managed to get himself up into 6th position after starting from 10th, so gaining even more, might well be in the hunt for a podium. You can see some of the damage there on Garnett's car, just on the front left. Quite a lot rubbing all over that. I'm not sure 100% where all that's come from, but clearly in the mid pack there's been quite a lot of activity, shall we put it. Battle for third is still close, though. It might well become that five-way fight, like we were saying. There's a mistake from Davies, though. Doors open, and Conor Garlick's going to come through straight into that third position as they head back up the hill. So simply done. Just caught Cam Davies out there with just a bit of a mistake. A slow exit there from White. No, very slow, to be honest. It might have made you think that there might have been a problem for that car, but no, I think it was just a slow run over the top as they come through the Sheen curve. Also, will say there was a lot of dust kicked up in the air going through the exit of Stirling's. That must have come from Haig or Reed, as they remain exceptionally close. Just a quarter of a second between them as they come up towards Paddock Hill. There was a look from Reed. It has not worked. Reed is trying for the race victory, is trying to go and take one over Ruben Haig. Is, again, as I've said, really has nothing to lose in all of this. Basically everything's settled behind the scenes, so it's about having some fun. There was a mistake from Ruben Haig, really lighting up the rears coming out of Druids, and right onto the scene is Luke Reed. Where's he going to make that mistake? Oh my goodness, straight away at Graham Hill, but keeps the foot in. Wow, that'll get the eye of race control when it comes to track limits excursions, but to be perfectly honest, that was very nice. Tyres are going to be very dirty though, overdrives it into Surtees. They're going to be side by side up towards Hawthorns. This is going to be incredibly close, but surely Luke Reed is not going to have the advantage as they get to the top of the hill. Reed is firing it in, using every little bit of that car that he can, but has to back out, has to do the up and under, and potentially try something into Westfield Bend. But of course it's going to get covered off by Ruben Haig. We're not even halfway through this race yet, and these two are putting on quite the show. Here we go then, down the hill. Ruben Haig in control of the race, having to deal with the champion, with the driver who's won the most, with the driver who has been in top form throughout this season, Luke Reed. The driver he's battled with throughout the weekend. Of course, do remember that Ruben Haig actually retired from the first race of the weekend. Unfortunately, just late on in the race, was running in second on that, which would have really helped his challenge for second position in this championship, which is currently being held by Callum Davies. There is Ella Lloyd leading, still leading, definitely not comfortably. The top two in the championship going toe to toe. And to be fair, for Luke Garlick, you've got to accept that in that car right now, there has to be the expectation that it's now or never. If you're going to win the GT5 Championship, the GT5 Pro Cup, you've got to go for the move straight away, because it's your championship rival that's ahead of you, and you need to outscore them. You need to get that clean sweep for the weekend as well, because Well, it'll just cement your position as a great driver around Brands Hatch. There might well be an issue there for the 78. I did say they were going a bit slow at one point. White losing out there to Garnett, so dropping now to 6th position. Look at how many positions Garnett's up now. Up 5 positions, absolutely rapid. Here's a replay, though, of the attempt of this brilliant side-by-side. And, of course, the mistake going down into Graham Hill Bend. This is what we just kind of like, well, we saw a little bit of this. So there's a mistake at Paddock Hill from Ruben Haig, so straight down the inside. So there was a brief taking of the race lead from Luke Reed. And so that's where he is now. Obviously, these two, they have been absolutely incredible. So Ruben Haig's put in a few mistakes in this race, unfortunately, just overdriving the car maybe. We haven't seen that level of mistake really from Luke Reed at all this weekend. You can see there's a bit of damage on the front of Reed's car just as the splitter's basically bouncing as they head down into the final corner of Clearways. You can see it's actually, if you look, it doesn't look too bad. I was going to say if you can look at the right-hand side, but I actually don't think it's fine. I think it's just where it was wobbling over some of the bumps, which there are plenty of around here at Brands Hatch. There is a car that definitely has damage, and it's unmistakable, the damage that Garnett has. Looking to go and grab, I would say a podium, but I get the feeling now that Conor Garlick has checked out. There's a costly mistake from Callum Davies. The door is open. There's contact between them. Here comes the up and under as White's going to try and sneak his way through in all of that. Garnett has gained 4th position in all of this. And, of course, Davies is going to try and send one straight to the inside. We saw that try earlier on in the race. We saw Callum Davies trying with that a couple of times and actually lost out in doing so by just maybe pushing it a little too hard and going too aggressively for the moves. Alas, on this occasion, it's actually worked out fairly okay. That is not really the side I would have gone on, though, if I was in White's boots, trying to get to the inside as they head up the hill. There is a rub on what will be the front right tyre now for Davies. That was obviously after the contact when Garnett came through. It shouldn't be too bad. It's not pooling with smoke, but there might be some concerns within that squad that maybe, just maybe, that might be over the line. Thankfully, it's on the front right, though, which they don't actually lean on as much around here. It's very much on the front left they're doing all of that heavy lifting, with obviously the amount of right-handers that we've got heading through this clockwise circuit. So there might, if it were me, I'd be looking at it being like, look, it's the last race of the weekend. Off you go, lad. Yeah, don't come into the pit lane. We're not going to look at it. You just keep on going, keep on trucking, keep on trying to gain those points and positions. The battle for the race lead in GT5 Pro. Ella Lloyd continues to lead from Luke Garlick. Luke still trying to find that way through on Ella Lloyd. There's just no opportunity right now. There's just no mistakes being made by Ella Lloyd. To be fair, the pair of these two this weekend, class their own when it comes to their ability on this racetrack. They've just not really made mistakes. They've kept themselves clean. They've kept themselves well in the race. And yeah, they've just been ticking off some brilliant laps, to be perfectly honest. Back to a look at this. And again, I think as we've started, like, I think worn away the first part of that bumper, basically, and I think it might be okay for Davies. Not for the position, though, because there is Colin White making his way through, and boom, that is the 78 up into 5th position. White has made the move on Davies, who's looked to struggle. Maybe they've missed tyre pressure, this car. Obviously you've got all this potential stuff, and I've always said when it comes to tyre pressures in race cars, the margin for error is much lower. Oh my, there was a bit of contact there as Ella Lloyd and Luke Garlick came together. You can tell that mostly based on which way their wing mirrors are pointing. Ella Lloyd's pointing out and Luke Garlick's pointing in. Just a brush between the pair of them as they come through Paddock Hill. You know that Luke Garlick wants to win this race, but Ella Lloyd's just doing a fantastic job in defending. Now a mirror down, and so has to do this on knowledge, on trust, on feel, on memory, as to where the 71. I mean, these two are teammates, so they're not going to do anything too far over the line, are they? Well, you never know. When a championship's on the line, all bets are off when it comes to that side of things. There's Ella Lloyd's wing mirror, basically. It's not corrected itself, but I think it's just where it's loose. I think it's kind of come round a little bit more because it was pointing out, and now seems to be mostly okay. It's still, I don't think it's usable. I don't think it's usable at all, but it's still one of those things to note. can definitely see that Luke Garlick's is not usable at all, so has to rely on the wing mirror on the left-hand side of the car, and of course the rear view mirror like you would have in your road car. Obviously slightly obscured through the rear window, but still plenty enough that you can tell where that car is. The spatial awareness of all these drivers is incredible, and that's why you've got to go into something like a GT5 Pro or the Ginetta Junior Championship, where you've got to start in this car. Something that's small enough where making the mistakes of spatial awareness is actually not too bad. You can kind of get away with it. These cars are tiny. I don't think I would fit in one. I've not given it a go, but I don't think I would. As we can see, here's the good run though, straight up the hill. Again, brilliantly covered off by Ella Lloyd. Out wide, Luke Garlick's going to go. Motor to try and carry the speed off the corner down that hill, but not even remotely close enough to send one down the inside. Just 4 minutes left to go in this race. There will be 3 more laps in the final race of the Protyre Motorsport Ginetta GT Championship. Correct that now, because where the leaders have crossed the line, it might be 3 laps from now. So Luke Reed has checked out right now. He's absolutely flying. The previous lap time, I say absolutely flying, the previous lap time was over a second faster than Ruben Haig. That tells me that Ruben Haig has just kind of capitulated, has gone, absolutely not, I'm not being a part of this anymore. You carry on down the road, I'm just going to secure second, I can't fight you. Here's where the fight really is though, someone definitely not saying, I won't fight you, I won't fight you. Obviously Luke Garlick is all over the idea of fighting Ella Lloyd for this victory. I don't know if the pair of these two get along, but I do hope so, because it's a lot more fun when you're racing with your mates. Even if, as soon as, you've heard it time and time again, visor down mentality. As soon as that visor's down, no one's mates. Straight to the outside going into the final corner, Luke Garlick's going to go. It's got to be a brave send, not on this occasion. It's so hard to send one around the outside there. It's just, you've got to basically be fully alongside. I remember it happening in British touring cars ages ago between Ash Sutton, I can't remember who it was with, but there was some brilliant side-by-side through that final corner. It's the last race of the season. I think it might have been Josh Cook, but you've got to get your start in things like this to show you how to get those moves done. Luke Garlick not really feeling the requirement of sending that one into Druids, not feeling the requirement to send it also into that final corner as Ella Lloyd continues to defend. Bit of a lock up there, just nothing too major, just a little bit of smoke popping out of the number 28. Remaining extremely close. Which side is Luke Garlick going to go? Commits to the outside, will try the up and under as they head all the way up the hill. Big slide from Ella Lloyd. And this could be Garlick's opportunity now. We'll be carrying more speed up the hill, right into that slipstream. They head their way down Pilgrim's Drop, up to Hawthorns, to the top of Hawthorns Hill, and still it remains not close enough. It's so close, you could barely put anything between the pair of these two, and that's been the case all the way through this race, and to be fair, to a certain degree, all the way through the championship as well. A reminder that it's 24 points separating first and second in the championship before this race. I think Luke Garlick, if I was in Luke Garlick's position, I'd almost not be caring about the championship right now. I'd want my Brands Hatch clean sweep. I've taken victory in the first race, I've taken victory in the second race, I want victory in the third race, as here comes Ella Lloyd to cover over. Remember, she's got that's the side where she's not got a mirror. This is going to be a big send from Luke Garlick, still backs out of it, does not fancy chancing it with all of that, the debris and detritus is basically on the exit of the circuit. I believe they might get 2 more laps. I know there's 50 seconds left to go, but it all depends on where Luke Garlick is, and I think actually there is enough time. Sorry, Luke Garlick, where Reed is. Luke Reed is on the circuit. Here comes Garlick then straight around the outside. This would have to be a very big send. Big squiggling in the braking zone from Ella Lloyd, and still not able to get through. Luke Garlick holds on to second position, but Ella Lloyd holds on to the race lead. 30 seconds left to go. Not long left in this race as they head their way through. We'll have to wait and see where there is this opportunity. There's got to be something out there somewhere for Luke Garlick to maybe force a mistake out of Ella Lloyd, but she's been bulletproof this race so far. She's not made a mistake at all. She's defended when she needed to defend. She's not put a foot wrong at all. We'll get confirmation, by the way. Rochford, who is in third position, has just received a 5-second time penalty for track limits, but there's nothing for these two to deal with when it comes to that side. Race control say final lap of the race, which tells me that Reed has come across the line now, so I believe we still will get this and another one for these two. They head their way down the hill. Lloyd, oh, here we go. That's going to be a big one from Sheen, up to Sheen. Let's see Garlick's come through. There's been contact between the pair of them, and it's going to be a spin for Ella Lloyd. They were fighting so hard, and onto the brakes comes Garlick. Rochford's going to come through to take the race lead, and she is beached in the gravel track. This has been a terrible weekend for Ella Lloyd. She's been in contention for her 11th victory of the season. She's been in contention for all three of those races. It just hasn't quite worked. Here comes your race leader, though, overall. Luke Reed will come through the final corner and up toward the line to take a victory by 3.7 seconds. It has been a fantastic weekend for Reed, taking a second win here at Brands Hatch. Haig will come across the line in second place. And of course, all of those will trickle over the line behind. Conor Garlick rounding out the podium. Garnett, after a great drive, to be perfectly honest, from 10th up to 4th. Then we get White, then Theobald, Davies. Wager will come across the line as well with Cedo and Fleming behind. And there is a very distraught Ella Lloyd. Another look at it. I mean, it was a bold move, you'd have to say, from Luke Garlick. But the big question, really, was he alongside enough? Was there enough of a gap? What was the deal there? And I will tell you now that because of the time penalty for Rochford, the 5-second time penalty, I said almost didn't really make much of a difference. Rochford came over to take the lead and came across the line first, but got a post-race time penalty, meaning that it will be Luke Garlick taking the clean sweep of the weekend. But that incident might put an end to that one. Depends on what race control suggests when it comes to that. Of course, that will take an awful lot of looking at, something which they probably wouldn't have wanted to do on what has been an absolutely beautiful weekend weather-wise, if a bit too hot. Into the pit lane they will all come. And like I say, Reed on top from Haig and Conor Garlick. A brilliant display from them. Haig did a really good job. To be fair, I've got to say with Haig, you know, to have come back from the earlier misfortune, the retirement from the first race of the weekend due to problems. We're not actually 100% sure as to what it was. Oh, it wasn't a crash. We'll take a look though at highlights from the race. So it was Reed starting from the outside of the front row, Haig with the inside run, and as they head their way down to the first corner, it was actually Davies with the better start. They'd passed their way all over the place coming down into the first corner, and it was still going to be Haig leading from Davies, then Reed behind, and it was all behind that where all the kerfuffling was, where all the drama was, as they would head their way through at Druids. There'd be a couple of attacks here, there and everywhere, especially back in the pack. Out wide, Sam Harvey would go after starting high up on the grid. Unfortunately, getting a lot of rear damage on that car. On board with Davies, you can see the mistake coming here. A big slide from Ruben Haig. Was able to catch the car and put it back onto the race circuit. They would head their way through. The switches, form positions would come thick and fast, though, as Ruben Haig would come straight back through for the race victory, or rather for the race lead. Also, with a little bit of an elbow out there from Luke Reed. Wouldn't take him long before he got to the back of Ruben Haig. Would make a mistake going into the first corner. Out wide it'd go at Paddock Hill. Straight to the inside Luke Reed would go, and it would be up into the race lead, where he'd start to pull away, to be perfectly honest. It looked like it was going to be a fairly simple run from there. And unfortunately, with Ruben Haig kind of dropping off a bit pace-wise, it certainly was. This was the drama on the last lap of the race, though. Ella Lloyd and Luke Garlick coming to blows, the top two in the championship. Ella Lloyd's race would end in the gravel trap. Luke Garlick would come through to take the victory, obviously in controversial circumstance. Out through the final corner, though, Luke Reed would go to take yet another win in the Protyre Motorsport Ginetta GT Championship. And you can see the reaction post-race. Been a brilliant drive from Reed. And once again, by 2.7 seconds, will win what I believe is I think it's an 11th win, might be 12th win of the season. We'll take a look at results. Luke Reed, Ruben Haig, Conor Garlick rounding out the podium, with Carl Garnett doing a great job to go from 10th to 4th and nearly even the podium, missing out by just 0.2 of a second. Colin White in 5th, Leona Theobald obviously in 6th position with Callum Davies, Gary Wager, and then Bal Sidhu almost rounding out the field with Sean Fleming, the final one of those GT pros. Luke Garlick would come across the line in first position. Of course, in the GT5s, we'll have to wait and see on that one. Will Rochford had a penalty as well. Pablo Jacquier, Sam Harvey and Ella Lloyd finished her race in the gravel trap. Well, we'll be back for more coverage, of course, later on in the day, because we've got to deal with the Ginetta Junior Championship and, of course, the Ginetta GT Academy. So hopefully you'll join us then. Hello. Oh, I know. The pressure's on.